How's it going, YouTube? Come on, today with another video. And today, guys, we are live on Twitch. If you want to join my channel, definitely go down in the description below and go check that out. Everyone's here with me today, and I usually don't do videos live, but I really wanted to make this one, and we're already kind of having the conversation, or about why I build Striker the way that I do and how I innovate this. So this is something that I've actually wanted to have a conversation with you all about for a long time. I kind of wanted a couple really nice lists for you just to kind of look at, or a couple different ideas as to why I play the different decks that I do, and the way that Striker is kind of evolved over time and the different lists we've seen. We're going to be talking about how the format's evolved even within this format that we're currently in. We went from a very droplet heavy to droplet sucked because of PK Brave, and then we're back to droplet being amazing because of based. And so there's a lot of different things that are changing, so it really depends on which build you're playing, and it kind of cycles them through on which cards are better. So let's go ahead and hop right into the first list here. And as you guys know, this is my Brave Souls Striker list. This is something that I personally really enjoy, and so the reason why I like this list a lot, and even though it looks a little odd, this is something that I really enjoy because there's so many different ways to play the game. First off, you have a lot of different opportunities when you're playing Striker to just kind of go crazy, but you only really get to do that when you hit spell count. Spell count is by all the best thing that you need to get to in Striker to be able to play the game and really be able to get that advantage going. This is a list where you can get spell count ASAP, especially if you open up the Brave engine, which a lot of people are just playing Brave and they're not playing the Souls package. But I feel like if you're already playing the Brave package, the Souls package doesn't really add too much more brick wise, because I feel like it's just another way to play, right? Because the way that I look at Striker is that if you're able to play, a lot of times you're playing very well and you're actually able to really grind with your opponent. But the times where you're not able to play come up quite a bit. If you're going to be playing like a 10-round tournament, right, there's a lot of situations where you just don't see Ray, and that's just going to happen. It's the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! It's variance. But what if we could cut out that variance as much as possible? And so you get a lot of these ideas when you go and play like a 60 card deck or a deck with multiple engines, because if you don't see one engine, you're still playing the game with the other engines. So the way that I look at this list is like, okay, if I don't see Ray, right, but I see Souls and I see my Brave engine, I know that I'm getting draws, which means potential Ray, like more potential Ray than usual. I also have a very clear avenue to get into my DPE route, which is very strong just on its own, because DPE 2 just allows you to be able to beat up the prank matchup a lot better. Because especially if you are popping your own Anaconda, which you should always be doing to make sure that your zones are clear, this is something that's very important, because if you are playing against like prank kids and they open the Brave package, you can pop their Fateful, and then if you have the active Widow already, because your Brave and your Souls already throw so many spells in the grave, stealing that normal summon, it makes that matchup that was almost impossible most times feel a lot more accomplishable, because you have so many more ways to play the game. But with all this good, where's the bad? Where do you really cut out that good engine? This is where I don't love this build, because there's also the situations where you're playing against based, you're playing against these big decks, and you're only maining 6 hand traps. Not to mention, if you're not even playing like the go second build, you don't have a lot of opportunities to go ahead and break the board. You have really nice plays that you can do, right? You can go into your Zeke, you can bring back your Ray, you can try to crash over something and bring back Rose and negate. But there's still so many cards that you're just kind of missing out on. The Brave package is still like 9 cards. You can go ahead and try to bait something with like the Draco back, but then you also lose on the Ray tag out, which is really important going second. And so there's a lot of different things that you have to think about, and that's something where if you actually look at my sideboard, I've thought about even going for some kind of smoke screen with this deck, where you open up going game 1 with you're doing your Souls package, you're doing your Brave package, and then you go into game 2, and when they think that you're on all of these amazing go first cards, you just blind second. You just put your entire side back into your deck, or like half of it, and then you just turn it into a go second build. It's exactly 14 cards right now without Griffin if you side out the Souls and the Brave package. So you have ample opportunity to go ahead and just side in 14 cards and then be strictly go second after that. And then when you go into game 3, if you go into a game 3, you can go back to your go first. So that's a huge theory that I've been having for a while now. You have your Cosmics, you have your Chalices, your Duster Blowout, your Mind Controller, your Geki, your other Afterburner. You're still playing your Bells, you're still playing your Ogres, so you have the ample opportunity to go ahead and answer your opponent. I really like this a lot because even if against like the Brave Tenny Sword Soul deck, you still have your Ogres and your Nibirs on the side. You still have your things like Chalice. You have a lot of very good ways to answer your opponent. So this is something where I think that it's very important to look at your list objectively and see where it's really good and where it kind of fails. And so this is something that you'll see in a lot of different decks that although they have a really good going first game, they'll lose on going second, or what have you. So there's also the other side of the coin though, right? Where we're playing like the go second build. Go second build became a lot better because we're not really playing against too much PK Brave anymore. There's a lot more decks in the format now, even like the bigger decks like the base decks right now, where the Lightning Storm's actually better against, where at the beginning of the format, it really wasn't there. It wasn't that good. So this is something where I really like going second, having the opportunity to just go ahead and shut down your opponent. This list a little not so updated because the bells would be Ogres and what have you. But this is something where just kind of taking a look at this kind of a build that going second still is very viable because even though the boards are a lot bigger, if you think about it, like PK Brave not being the best deck in the format anymore, that also makes cards like the Dark Rulers a lot better. So no matter what deck you're playing, there's a lot of opportunities to play those Dark Rulers, those droplets again, because they're not just able to go ahead and flip a Fog Blade and then you can just go ahead and chain your DP off of that. So that was like one of the biggest concerns though about playing those cards, is that they didn't work in time to just block the Scythe out, right? So this is something where I think that it's important to note that, especially because I have an event coming up. If you guys are familiar, that I'm going to the Kentucky event April 2nd. So if you are going, I will see you there. This is something where I've been going very back and forth in my own head. Like, do I play this card? Do I play this card? It's really kind of tough to call it. But I think right now, let alone, my personal favorite build for that event at least, because the format could change in the next 2 weeks, who knows, but as of right now, I think it's still go second. So I think that's really important though, because go second just has the opportunity to play so much utility. And what I mean by that is if you're already playing like the Regeki, the Lightning Storms, the Duster, you're still playing the One of Desires because you're going second and it's still a +1. And it's just a one of power card now. So there's no point not to play it at this point, right? If you're just going second, we were already worried about banishing Engage the first time. Nothing really changes when this goes to 1. You're still playing it. You're playing the double burner. You main deck the Cosmics. You could play the Eagle Booster if you wanted to. I really like going second right now. It just gives you so much opportunity to do better than your opponent because you can main deck so many hand traps and so much utility. Because a lot of those one card starters, a lot of things that people don't realize is that if you're playing that like 13 hand trap count, a lot of decks like Dragon, Prank Kid, they can't come back if you keep hand trapping them because they're going to end up needing multiple cards. So like Prank Kids, for example, if they go into their Meowmy, right? And then they have no way to recycle it because you, let's say, imperm their Dual Do or what have you, right? There's not a whole lot that they can do outside of hard drawing Fusion Double Kid against Dragon. They have a really hard time coming back in the game, especially if their graveyard is just very small, because if you're already in control of the game and then you do the smart thing where you go like dumb Shark Cannon, add Shark Cannon, in the end phase, you'll add one off of Shizuku and then double Shark Cannon your opponent. So there's a lot of really smart things that you can do to mitigate the Dragon matchup. And a lot of times, a lot of board breaks, their boards can't really deal with it. So just kind of keeping all that in mind, there's also the other list that I want to talk about today too, which is the going first with DPE. So a card that really fell out of the format that I understand why it's gone, but I think that it could see a comeback is There Can Be Only One. The reason why it's gone is because of Dracoback. Dracoback is inherently a problem card, and it's just really tough to play any kind of Floodgate. That's why the Eldritch deck isn't a deck right now. You just don't see it anywhere. You might see it here and there, but like it's really out of the format right now. And that's because a lot of people just don't feel that good about playing against like Dracoback Turbo, you know? It gets really tough. So that's why I think that this card is still really solid, because you're playing your Ogres, you're playing your Ashes, you're playing DPE to go ahead and try to pop the Fateful. There's a lot of different opportunities to like get rid of the Dracoback before it's a problem. I'm also main decking the Cosmic, so that also deals with that as well. So as long as you keep it in the back of your mind that you're actually main decking the outs for the Dracoback, it's just one card. Even though it's very searchable, once it's gone, it's gone. They can't get it back. So I think that the mentality that floodgates are bad because of that isn't totally correct. And I think that this also could be something that just catches people very off guard, because there can be only one in this format. It's still very strong. So I really would like to see this make a resurgence, and it's something that I would very much so consider. Overall, though, there's a lot of different lists here to talk about. I still think that this one is probably my second favorite. This would be my favorite right now, and this would be probably my last. I still don't like going first with DP. I don't think that it's really correct. I also don't think that it's nice to be playing DP when you don't have a lot of fallback if it doesn't go through, because a lot of times you're really just using your Ray and your Rose to summon Anaconda, which is really hurtful if they, like, Imperm, Veiler, Gamma, like, whatever they have, right? And if you're playing like this build, then you have some recovery off your DP if they do stop it. But with this build alone, though, you're just not even worried about that, right? You're playing the double Charmer, so you're going to be able to reborn whenever you want. You're playing the double Zeke, so you can outgrind your opponent and at least have another card to threaten them at some point. You're able to main deck all the utility that you want, while still maintaining the game state and be able to break their board. Because like I said about like Prank Kid and Dragon, if you're able to crack their board, they're left on top decking and whatever resources they left themselves from the previous turn, and it becomes a lot harder to play the game outside of that. Especially if you already dealt with like their Brave Engine and Prank Kid, and then you have 3 spells engraved, the rebuttal when they summon a kid and you have an anchor, it just is curtains from there. So I wanted to just talk about this today because there's a lot of theory just kind of going on in my head and things that I'm thinking about constantly with the deck. And I thought that I would share that with you because there's a lot of different things you have to think about when you're going to an event versus where you're at now to where it could be in 2 weeks. And you kind of have to predict that. You have to look at trends. You have to assume that base is probably still going to be one of the best decks, if not the best deck. I think that Dragon is the best deck personally. They just have a lot of ways to open up any kind of fishbowl. They have a lot of utilities. They can main deck a lot of hand traps. They can search a lot of hand traps, which is pretty crazy, especially with milling 9 and being able to reborn Lancias and whatnot. So that's something just kind of keep in the back of your mind as well. I hope that you like really enjoyed it because I really want to hear feedback from you as well. I want to hear what you've done with Striker, where you've taken it, different things that you've tried to accomplish with the deck too, because I'm always interested to hear feedback, different tech cards you've tried. And this is something where Striker has been my favorite deck of all time. It's been something that I've really liked doing. And it's something that will keep on growing and keep on innovating. So I hope that you take this information today and really apply it to deck building in the future, because there's going to be so many different variants of Striker coming forward. I already showed a couple in my last video between like Therian and Misty Ruin. I'm very excited for those two because I think they're going to be really strong, especially Therian. That's going to be a whole different list, and we'll talk about that in a closer to that set video. But I hope that you guys all enjoyed the video today. I'll catch you all in the next video, and I hope that you all have a great night. Thanks.